Rather than just saying, okay, open your books to page 5, start reading. No, you can't do that. Kahit anong klaseng subject area teacher ka pa. You have to be able to explain, model, provide guided practice, and engage students in independent practice. And this is called explicit teaching. How can we integrate literacy in science and other content areas so that everybody speaks the same language? I think Dr. Nema mentioned that in the US, the Common Core state standards, talagang underlying all subject areas is literacy. There's a separate competency statement required across subject areas. Okay. So what do the experts say again? 1, there is a need to balance narrative and informational text reading in schools. I think for the English group, you were very fortunate to have seen parallel text. Anong ibig sabihin ng parallel text? Isang topic, pero 2 types or different types of presentation. I'll put it that way. May essay, may short story, may drama. So it comes out, but it's talking about the same topic or theme. So what do experts say? Should students be reading? Sabi, kailangan balanse. There has to be a balance between informational and non-fiction text, or fiction or narrative text. What is informational text, which is very, very typical in science, particularly in the textbooks? It's really a specific form of non-narrative, non-cuento. It's not a drama, not a beginning and ending story, but rather it communicates information and is defined by the CCS as any of these. 1, biographies and autobiographies, books about history, social studies, science and the arts, technical text, including directions, forms, and information displayed in graphs, charts, or maps. And last, it's digital sources on a range of topics, whether it's Wikipedia or National Geographic or any of these websites. Now, here are some what they call research-based teaching strategies for building literacy across the curriculum. We start off with what we call as engagement strategies in science and content areas. In ELA, we call it before reading. So here goes the issue. Okay. When you do before reading instruction, science teachers or content area teachers should realize that you can't just make a student read the text without any, I was going to say I don't know if it's a bad word, without any imprimatur, without any, I was going to say foreplay, I'm sorry, without any sort of piquing the interest and so forth. Kasi usually, pag nakikita ko ang mga content area subject teaching, yung bata parang very passive when they're reading. There's no interaction between the text and the student. Because perhaps the students weren't also guided on how to approach the text itself. Mahirap na nga, and they're left on their own. That's the problem. So, when you're getting ready to read, curriculum teachers, all teachers, should go through these steps as well. 1, read with a purpose. Have your students find an interest in the text. Why am I reading this text? How should my purpose affect the way I read the text? So you sort of give naman a bit of interest or make them engaged in the text. Overview the text. What's the text about? Okay, let's open our books to page 5, scan through. What do you see? Do you see pictures? Do you see difficult words that are unfamiliar to you? Underline those words that are seemingly new. So, you guide them through that process even before reading the text itself. So how is the text organized? Activate what you already know. Based on what you see in the page, is there something that has been taught in the previous class, or do you remember a particular day or concept when this particular figure or picture was discussed? Maybe in another subject or so forth. Predict. I think this text is going to be about. So what do you think is page 5 all about? So they have to look at the title, diba? They have to look at how many paragraphs and so forth. So these are all parts of before reading. The one important thing, though, is to point out that the text type has a different purpose. Okay? In fiction, the text tells a story. There's often a main character who faces a problem and who tries to resolve it. So if you look at both content and organization, both types of text have differing organizational structures and may be dealing with a different type of content. But sometimes they may be dealing with different types of content, but the only difference is in the organization, as in the case of these two texts. So essentially, when you teach to different types of text, you have to realize that the text structure or organization is different. Pag narrative or short story, there's a plot, there's a setting, there are characters, you ask students what's the point of view, and a theme. The other thing that you need to teach students or guide students in understanding informational text is there are clues, which we call as signal words. Tinuturo to sa Ella. But there are clues in a text that will tell you what type of text structure it is. So we call them critical words or what you call as signal words. Okay? So what we want students to be able to do to make the text less complex or less confusing is to look for clues in the form of signal words to tell them whether it's a description, sequence and order, compare and contrast, cause and effect, and problem and solution. In understanding complex text is something that everybody, where are you? Everybody probably knows, okay. For most English teachers, okay, one of the things that we often have to first deal with when approaching complex or even any narrative text is vocabulary. Okay. Most of the time, in other subject areas, we don't think that vocabulary is critical. Now, why focus on vocabulary? One, the goal of modeling word and phrase solving is to help students develop a habit of looking inside and outside words to get an idea about what the words might mean. What does looking inside mean? It involves word parts, including prefixes. So this is what we call, in English, structural analysis. Prefixes, suffixes, roots, bases, and cognates. Looking outside the word involves context clues and resources. Okay. Ito, do you use this in science? The Freyer model. Yan. Okay, I'll show you now a video. Now, what is simply being told to us is that we need to teach vocabulary explicitly.